Okay, so what we left off last time is we started talking about volume metrics and how we're going to take our go-to-market motion, our business, our business model, and how do we start thinking about this in a very specific scientific way that creates measure and allows us to make impact. So let us continue going through. So quick review. Squiggly circles in marketing. You have one little loop de dupe in sales, and then lots of loops over on the right end, because that is where the majority of our time is spent as customers. So as we go through, the first thing I think about this is a bow tie model. And what this allows us to think through and do is, if applied to stages, we can now create what we call volume metrics to each one of these stages. And this is a count of number. So when we think about each one of the stages up top, the process someone goes through, awareness, education, selection, onboarding, et cetera, and the action they're doing to to change from one stage to the next, we can start to count the number of individuals that have gone through these times. Now, some of these may be very common, right? It's we talk about, give me the number of leads, the number of dealers, the number of deals or accounts you have at the beginning of each stage, and that's how we think about it. These are volume metrics. What we haven't done traditionally is create volume metrics for customer. Let me give you one hot flaming example from me, from Rev Partners. Till very recently, everybody that went through the left side of this funnel, we had I'll give you, we have leads, and this is because this is base case in HubSpot. We have leads, we have MQLs, we have SQLs, opportunities, and then closed, and then customers. And we have no volume metrics to the right side. But this is the most important part. What's wrong? Why was I not doing revenue operations? I don't know. I was not applying science to it. So this enables us is when you have measured specific and you apply this model to your business, it creates the ability to start some other measurements that can also be just, if not more important, to start thinking about exponential. So the building block number one, this is the fundamental. This is what we're going to show tomorrow, is collecting volume metrics in HubSpot, because this is the base, the most important part, a firm understanding of every single one of these. We'll give some examples. The next after volume metrics is, once you have a state and time, a being, like there is a state and presence, you then can start doing conversion metrics between those two. So if I have volume measure 1 and volume measure 2, that allows me to have conversion rate 1, which is the conversion rate between VM1 and VM2. And CR1 will always be, if I'm talking to another RevOps professional, I know CR1 is how successful am I doing from taking someone that's interested in the business, someone visiting our websites, to becoming interested, and in that ratio. This is extremely powerful. We'll talk about a little bit the math. We don't have a lot of time to go over the math. We'll talk about the math of why this, our brains can't think, at least I can't think this. I can't think in exponential ways, and we'll show it in a second. We'll show that a little bit. Very common conversion metrics people talk about, and what they're really talking about, if you put it in this framework, is lead to opportunity conversion. And you see here, they're really talking about, there are 3 different states that said person went through. They went from VM1, VM2, VM3, which is traditionally prospect, MQL to SQL. And then they went through 2 different conversion ratios, which is CR1 and CR2, and lead to opportunity is the combination of CR1, CR2 to say how successful as a business are we at taking leads and turning them into deals, deals, as we would say in the HubSpot. Opportunities, by the way, is a Salesforce object. That's why you hear it, but you call LTD, which is lead to deal ratio, but this is what you hear very common. The next one you hear is lead to, or this should be opportunity to close one. So this is our sales one. This is like, hey, how successful, how good, I'm actually going to change that now because it bothers me. How, I'm not able to change it. So how, there it is. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff on here. I should not have done that. We're just going to, forgive me as I had technical issues because my computer just froze. Stop that. But the idea is, right, you have lead to opportunity, and then from lead to opportunity, you actually have opportunity to close. And I just wanted to make make it right, but I will not do that because I have lots of animation built into the slide. Okay, so we have lead to opportunity. We're gonna go. And then next, after lead to opportunity, is we talk about churn. And so what this enables us to do, if we have our volume metrics inside our CRM, and we start to do conversion ratios post customer or post, we may not name it customer anymore, we may name it something else, right? But post commitment, we are then able to start looking at churn. Now, traditionally, this churn ratio is done by the finance team, and they are looking at churn coming off based on billing. But this will allow us to have a source of truth. It allows us to begin to be able to reporting on what, because remember, who is the person who runs revenue operations? It's the person who knows the formulas. And that person that knows the formulas and is running the forecasting model is asking both questions. What's my lead to opportunity ratio and what's my churn ratio? And it would be so good if I didn't have to go to HubSpot to find one of them, or my marketing automation platform to go to one of them, and my finance department or churn zero, whatever we're using to go to the other one. Wouldn't that be awesome? So like this allows us to think through this and we can see more holistically the funnel, but that's not all. After conversion metrics, and just a point, only visible in ERP for the most part, right? Your ERP is QuickBooks, NetSuite, M4. It is these large, it's enterprise resource planning system. Same thing. It's like where all AP or accounts payables and accounts receivables live. It's where your finance team lives and does all their operations at. So right side, these almost exclusively live, and it gets really difficult. And we need this information. I say we, I mean, marketing professionals and sales professionals need this information to be able to do their jobs better, but we're not holistically, at least I know I wasn't having that until very, very recently. Now, when we think about, when we think about this, next is, I'm just going to delete this because that is, I didn't animate it. What comes next after our conversion metrics is our time metrics. So if you look at the bottom, time metrics here, if you look at the bottom, if we have volume, where you are from point A to point B, and we know the ratio, which is that's converted, we then can start saying how long is that person in this stage. So then we get to do very common things that we hear a lot, which is, hey, how long is this sales cycle? And uncommon things that we also need to think through, which is, what's my time to live, or how long is it taking me to onboard? What's my contract length? And so if you're able to put all these in one system, it is rocket fuel. And you look at this, this is not hard math. This is like, these are super, I wouldn't say simple, but these are foundational principles that if you can calculate. So when I go into a place or someone's asking about revenue operations, many of my questions are simple. Hey, how many deals do you have? What are the conversion ratios? How long are you sitting in the stage? And based on someone's answer, I know the level of maturity of RevOps, because this, in my opinion, is the foundational level. And if you can't today do this inside your CRM, then start here. Stop everything, get this done, and put this in your CRM, because this is what the foundations are for you to be able to know where to focus, which was my big like thing that was going to come up if it was automated correctly, which is, this is revenue operations. We now have science. We know our go-to-market. Our go-to-market is going to inform and affect how we're doing our data model, and where we focus as revenue operations professionals is in affecting key metrics, whether they're volume, conversion, or time. And every initiative we do is going to be aligned to one of these metrics, and thus we know if we're having impact. We'll get in the math model just a little bit today, but the point is if we make a small impact in one of these conversion ratios, it is dramatic, outsized impact on revenue, and that is how we're starting to prioritize time. But we can't truly do revenue operations. You can't truly do revenue operations. Apply scientific empirical analysis to your revenue funnel if you do not have these metrics in your CRM, period. Just as a point, this is the most foundational level of RevOps. If you leave for anything else, take this model and it's like, how the heck do I get it into my CRM? We'll be going over that tomorrow. So let's look at this. Matt, that's great. But and this is where it gets different. This is where this is where fun stuff starts happening. And this is how does go-to-market motions that I'm doing, sales motions specifically, affect or influence the data model? And I like a live, and we'll do this together. And we're just going to go through these. And is anybody that is in a PLG motion right now want to talk about, think about what these stages would be called for a PLG? So we'll go through and we'll do it together. How would this change from PLG to two-stage? So does anybody raise their hand and want to go through the PLG? And I'm asking is, what would you call VM1, VM2, VM3? Or you can just go over what you call it today, and we'll go through this model together. So guys, anybody raising their hand? I'm gonna take silence and no. Who will? I feel like I'm actually in class and nobody wants to raise their hand. Oh, Eli.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me okay?
Loud and clear. So work with me. We're doing PLG. What would you call VM1 based on either your company or your experience? We'll walk through it.
Okay, so my company is we have where we're at and then what we want to be. So
that's okay. What would you do in an ideal state?
Yeah, so in an ideal state, we'd be actually like right between those two, if that's possible.
Yeah, so just talk here. So I'm going to do like, here's an example. I'm going to click, you're going to name something and it'll come up. So like the beginning,
okay.
We're calling leads, which are visits. And so after a lead, if you're doing a PLG, let's just pretend you're doing PLG motion. What would VM2
be? So discovery.
Okay, I'm going to click. So just in a PLG motion, because that sounds like an example. This is a sign up. So just a example, if people are signing up, they're signing up and they're having a trial because they are on the product. They're doing a trial. This is usually for like a freemium, and a salesperson hasn't even reached out at this point sometimes. And so as we think about VM3, which is the start of the sales process, what would you call what are you thinking about calling these as they're starting the sales process in the PLG motion?
Yeah. So here, we'd use the same term, engaged.
Okay. Next, and this is what people are starting to call in PLG motion, is called a product qualified lead. And so we're measuring, have lead, sign up to PQL, and that signifies, and there's usually some kind of like product data that's saying that's moving them to PQL. And that's saying, hey, these people are either ready to be assisted by sales team to like reach out to, or they are going to convert by themselves and go to a paid plan as an example. So this is a hot opportunity. So you're using engage.
Right.
It's the same thing, right? It's just I'm using product qualified lead. You'll hear this a lot in sale and PLG company.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Okay, and then next.
So next we would so what we have a product and then we try to sell managed professional services on top of that.
So we'll go. What you're going for me is you're going over here. So there's a stage. I have an active contract, like an active contract with somebody, and now they're activated, right? There's probably some onboarding where you're going to reach out. So you have contract stage, which would signify hey, they signed a contract. The next is they're active, right? They've been onboarding, and so at this point, this is where you're trying to get them to either renew, upsell, cross sell. And this is where traditionally we don't have any volume metrics. And so what I like to do for products, and I'll keep going here, Eli, as we just go, is MER. Are we getting monthly recurring revenue? Some people do ARR here, but it's this idea of, have they signed an annual contract, maybe a managed services you did? And so you're measuring this conversion ratio. So like, are they achieving impact on the initial product? And now are they either going into our managed product, or right, and there's this next, and then last is LTV. LTV is lifetime value, the
Right.
lifetime value of the customer, and what you're saying there is they renewed, or they bought another product, or they did upsold into another product. And if you're able to think of all these things, you now have your PLG motion all set up. So Eli, thank you. I know like this is you're working hard. It sounds like you're going somewhere. Appreciate you getting on the hot seat. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no, thank you. This is it's very helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, everybody. Everybody give Eli a little hand clap. That is awesome. As you see, like this stuff's hard, and we can make it look on a graph like this is easy. But when you're flying a ship or whatever analogy we use in an airplane, and we got to build the airplane as we're flying, sometimes passengers fly out and we need to have parachutes. Sometimes seats, like things disappear. And the point is, there are some industry best practices on this example of how our go-to-market motion affects how we're collecting in our CRM. I will be two-stage. This is more traditional. I'm going to go through this one. This is what our company uses, just so you see it and we think through it. We have it. Two-stage. So we have recently moved from lead into prospect. So our VM1 is prospect. VM2, MQLs. Now there's a lot of word. Are MQLs dead? No, they're not. They're still extremely useful from a data metric perspective. We might not judge or incentivize our marketing team on how many MQLs they have, because we want them to be further down in the revenue stream and incentivize them on actually producing revenue. However, like understanding how interested people are and looking at the conversion ratios between that matters. Yes. Next, MQLs. Next is SQLs. So this is sales qualified leads, meaning we had someone interested and we now have some level of engagement. Maybe that's a both who contact us form, or we had a prospecting motion that was said, hey, this person has shown lots of interest. Let's engage them on LinkedIn, some kind of outbound, like, warm outbound approach. And then when the sales team accepts it, right? The sales team's like, yes, I think this is a good lead. We have an SAL, which is sales accepted lead. And so this VM3 and VM4 is the lifeblood of two-stage companies. Is my marketing team producing the type of leads that I want that are good for the sales team? After that, it is commit. We've changed it to the commit instead of customer, because this means they have a commitment with us. After commit, we move to onboard. And so we have commit. After they've committed, we have an onboarding phase. So it depends on what product, but usually this is either about 90 days. After that, they've either signed a contract, they're post 90 days. If they have a managed service with us, it's just the first 90 days. If it's an HubSpot implementation, it's a 90-day post onboarding. We attempt to upsell into our managed service, and so we're looking at this conversion from VM6 to VM7. And it's a little bit different actions we're doing because the CS team based on the product we're selling and based on what metrics we're using, triggers. And after, for us, we do ARR instead of MRR. And then after ARR, what we're looking for, has the company, the triggers, have they upsold, meaning they've upgraded, or have they cross-sold, meaning they're using like our inbound product as well. So are they eating more of us in some capacity? And if they do, that's when we say we've achieved maximum value, which we call LTV. You'll see these are trigger specific. There are very specific actions, specific gates that dictate what's going from VM1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6, 7 to 8. Each one of those have conversion ratios. Each one of those have a timestamp that allow us to think through it. Now, out of the box, and until recently, you couldn't even do this in HubSpot. And so it's in beta right now to be able to change the customer life cycles, and we will show you and talk to you through that tomorrow. Think through it. Okay, what I want to ask everybody in a question in a poll is, and this is a question, is for this to work, right? For these funnel metrics to work, there must be, none of your prospects can go backwards. So that means you must have, like, if someone's from prospect MQL, SQL. Here's my question to everybody. We'll have a poll now. How many people in their organizations can say, I have accurate volume metrics in my CRM? Simple yes or no. I trust the volume metrics from VM1 to VM5 because that's what most people have. Yes or no? We'll give it about 10 seconds. I think this we'll find this up as a fun exercise. Yeah, on our DJ, I feel like we should have like a Jeopardy thing going at this point. It'll be fun. Now I'm gonna count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, what do we get? What's our results? So I just said, you're not alone, and everybody that said yes, I think you should raise your hand and let's have a chat, and you should show us all because that is amazing. This is a fact. Even just getting these metrics done, you are not alone if you do not have them. They are hard to do, even though that's very simple theoretically and conceptually. And to add another layer of difficulty on it, what if you have 2 go-to-market motions at the same time? What if you have both lead, a PLG motion and a 2-stage motion? How do you consolidate and standardize your data model? Remember the question when someone says, do data analysts have a job in HubSpot? Abso-freaking-lutely you do, because you have to deal with this. How are you doing 2 different customer lifecycle motions with different trigger motions with different products across the same customers? Are you using 2 different CRMs to do them? Are you doing it in the same CRM and you have different life cycles that based on, I mean, there's multiple ways to attack this, but now you're starting to get into the like difficult applicable problems because, and we have ways to think about it because we have our model. This is so awesome. Hopefully this excites you as much as it excites me. Okay, I am opening up questions and answers as we have come to the end of data model. There will be and I'm just going to go through them. Matt, how do you deal with prospects with a smaller average deal size who insist on buying like an enterprise customer, e.g. lots of touches, highly customized RFPs, long drawn out process, many stakeholders, but for a deal that has AAR in the neighborhood 10 to 20, I'd say goodbye. That's what I'd do. I'd say goodbye. This is an important aspect of the go-to-market is a go-to-market motion and the average deal size should align with each other. Because how much you are spending, think of how costly this customer is because of how long they're sitting in the sales funnel versus sitting in the customer success. There are other people. I've had 1 or 2 close conversations, and they always are the best customers versus the people I spend 4, 6, 7, 10 different meetings with before they commit, and then end up being very unhappy because their expectations. It's just difficult. So my answer to you, Jonathan, is they might not be the customer your product is suited for. I would say adios. Will you cover channel and partner sales? I know you said not today, but does that mean you will tomorrow? Not tomorrow. Jan, it seems like we have a topic for the next time, channel and resale. I actually stood up a channel and resale department for as a RevOps. It is a beautiful thing, but it's not covered today on how it fits in the model. And yes, we will talk about it, just not today or tomorrow. However, no, anyway, it just gets more sophisticated. You need here's the point. You need these base foundations, and then you put a channel on top of it. You don't ever just start channel from the beginning. You usually have another, let me use the word channel here. You have a sales go-to-market motion, and then you put channel to increase velocity of your current motion. So that we'll go over it and talk about how do you do a partner led growth or channel led growth. Does anybody use Profit Well's integration with HubSpot? I have with past customers. It's extremely useful. They have, along with like ChargeBee, they have really good SaaS metrics. If you're doing SaaS or subscription modeling, that lets you do all your LTV, look at your contraction, expansion, mirror. I like it a lot. But I would also look at ChargeBee. I may like that one more. How would I compute these metrics? The native tool in HubSpot. Better use Power BI or Excel or just JSON connector, isn't it? That's what we'll go over Friday. This is a really good use of Ops Hub, number 1. But what I'm going to show you is just how to get the basis tomorrow of how do you inside HubSpot create your VM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Talk about the data, like the workflows you have to do, and talk like in order to create good data. And you can do that also. You can do that natively inside HubSpot without the need to use a Power BI or Excel or JSON connector. Yeah, and I told you I'd talk about Ops Hub. He was so worried I wouldn't. What's the right field or university course to study for a young person who wants to be a RevOps specialist of sorts? Are you a freelancing career? Do you have a HubSpot has a RevOps course? I'm a talking head in that course. It is good theoretically. It does not give much practical guide on how to execute. The best way, first off, there is nobody specializing in RevOps business. Like you remember, we talk about go-to-market motions, understand those go-to-market motions, get a business degree. And then the best way to get good at like this data portions and how to configure our CRM, and everybody close your ears, that's from HubSpot here, is a Salesforce certification. It's the best way. That's how I learned, at least. I don't like Salesforce, but like it's very difficult. So when you think through it, it makes HubSpot, because HubSpot is easier to use. It makes it child's play in the sense of like manipulating data. It's really cool. So I recommend doing that. There's probably some Salesforce places to talk through. Can you report these metrics in HubSpot automatically, or do you have to build reports? You have to. We're going to go on that Friday, show you how to build the reports, and you can report on these metrics, at least from the VM ones, and show you how to do time and stages as well tomorrow. And it is native, and you don't have to build report. You can build reports, but it's native. Will a demo fall under PQL or sign up? This is about the trigger and how you set it up. What we've done as a PQL is a hand raise saying, I am not doing your freemium product. I am not self using the product, and it would be as a PQL. Raising your hand, go to opportunity, and there would be another, I call it a sales assist, where your sales team is assisting somebody through the sales process to go to contract faster, usually tend to be larger deals. It would seem like VM4 and VM5, a lot can happen that would be of interest. Discovery, demo, capability, stakeholder engagement, etc. Yes, we're going to go over that in our math model. And this is just the foundation. Inside of each one of these, this is where best practices. So you talk about where does sales operations live? Sales operations lives from you call like education to commit, and in between that, you have, how do you do a mutual action plan? How do you do a close plan? How do you do a discovery call? How do you do a demo call? How are you getting and just the ability to decrease, like all those are skill sets that RevOps individuals, that sales ops needs to understand to be able to measure and to be able to report on. We'll talk, and you'll see that in a second. Can you explicit why the bow tie shape instead of the funnel shape? The bow tie shape is the funnel, just sideways and split together. So there's two funnels, right? Traditionally, a funnel, as you go through it, gets smaller because you have less people. And the way a bow tie funnel works is, as you get to the commit, you should be expanding your revenue, right, with your customers. So those conversion ratios are getting, should be like getting, that's the intent right here. So like it's showcasing the majority of your revenue is done from current customers, not new customers. Should SLA be the responsibility of the SDR, or who should be involved in scheduling, diagnose, prescribe meetings of the WBD framework? Well, to use the framework specifically, what matters is who do they report to? So there are, and I didn't go into this here, but there are theories about the SDR, the BDR, and the MDR, and based on what it is, has responsibility and who handles like the pass off. And there is a specific metric to be able to look at who owns it. Here's my take, very simple, is sales reps owns it. Sales reps own it. Is and once they have seen it, it goes into a stage 0, right? There's a pass off. It's the sales reps, it's the AE's prerogative to say it's either qualified or not qualified. And if it sits there too long, that's not the SDR's fault. It's the AE's fault. And so just some behavior, that's what I have found to be best useful for some behavior changes. Aurora, when you get into the Sales Hub demos and more specifics, I'd love to know if you input tracking, trade shows attendance, tiering. Okay, that may be outside this, but re-ask that question tomorrow as we get in. and you keep referencing a class on Friday, I mean Thursday. I'm getting my days mixed up. You're right. Nicholas for PLG, what are the primary metrics I could use to differentiate between contract and active? So active is, there's a really good tool I like to use. It's called breadcrumbs.io. And so breadcrumbs, what that does is it creates scoring attribution or scoring models that you can give scores to. So you can give scores to things like a leads, number of actions on MQL, but you can also do scores on things like from contract to active, meaning, hey, someone is now inside, they have a paid plan. The way you do it is like health scores. How many times, and you have to get the product data into CRM through events. You get through like a Syncery is what I use to push it in. And the question is, how many times have they logged in? How many numbers of users do they have? And you can start doing a model that gives a score that says when, and you have to just make it, when do I consider this to have achieved impact? And that is what you're basing it off of. And so that's my recommendation on the back end. Is you have some scoring mechanism, a health score that is showing you has someone imported. So Slack famously would have how many number, and they just kept it really simple. The number of messages sent within the first 60 days or 90 days. And they would have they showcase the number of messages sent was indicative of having a client that has moved from VM5 to VM6. Okay, no questions. Let us move into topic number 2. It is the data model today. Not the data model, the math model. So you see, we missed breaks. We already had a break. Let's go where we're at. So where are we at? We have done business model, the go-to-market models, the growth model, the data model. Now we're doing the math model, and we're not going to get to the tech stack today. But we're going to the math model. Short thing on the tech stack is you can consolidate much easier in HubSpot, and wow, I love it. Really short and simple. Well, I'll show you what that looks like. So to go over, and you'll have this, here's a quick and easy guide to go over. So one of the things I love about this framework is we can now, as revenue professionals, talk to each other and our terms, and be able to talk very quickly about very specific instances and know what we're talking about. So here's an example. Like, I know VM1 is identified. I know VM2 is interested. I know VM3 is engaged. And so we can almost talk like medical doctors. And as we diagnose our revenue stacks, as we create repeatable processes, right? And so we have these. This is it. You have your volume, your conversion, your time metrics. And each of them is giving you insight into a different part of the revenue funnel. And so example is your time metric, TM1 is the length of time before engagement is achieved. And that falls within your awareness of the customer journey. So it's just, you can start doing this, learn these as you apply them. And what's really powerful, which I'm not going over here today, is if you compare like a CR1 to a time 2, and you start to do comparative against those two, that will give you more insight into where to focus. So I'm going to give you a model of this. This is like a Rev Partners model. This will be your exercise at the end of the day. So as an example, turn it. So to put all this together is, what business model are you? So the business model is, we are a subscription business, monthly payment, 6-month contracts. Our go-to-market motion is we have a 2-stage, and we have the channel, which is a partner-led program. We have marketing, is we only do inbound. We have no outbound motion whatsoever. We have a CS, we have a help desk for any questions we have that we can field. Our engines of growth are thought leadership, events, and content. Our growth model, we're currently in go-to-market fit. We're not in scale up. We are like $5-6 million in AR. Our data model that we use is prospect, MQL, SQL, SAL, commit, live, MER, and LTV. So as your homework is, and this is your ideal state, doesn't have to be where you're currently at, is let's put yours together. Simple thought process, just to take everything we've been learning together in one place and be able to look at it. So just to give an example, put it all together. So let's talk about the math. Let's talk about the math. So let's take our model that we have, and our data model, and and I'm going to show you, there's two things. Inside our data model, we have two types of numbers. We have an additive number, meaning it's, hey, what's a volume metric? How many numbers of, in that VM2, MQLs do I have? And when I think about that, I say, if I increase my number of MQLs, all else the same, I will have, if I 2x my number of MQLs, I should have 2x the number of closed ones, right? I should have 2x the number of committed customers, and it's linear. You know, if I put in more here, I get in the same amount that I've increased over there, right? It's linear. The next volume metric is what we call it's multiplication. It's your close one ratios. It's because a close one ratio is by definition 2 different metrics that you're creating a ratio for. So you're looking at, if I affect this one conversion ratio, it has a multiplicative effect downstream. I am growing even faster. However, that's still linear growth. It's still a straight metric. And so there is a different way to think about this. And this is the math model that justifies and helps us prioritize where we spend our time as RevOps professionals and where we're getting good at. Here it is. So we talked about, we had the adding, right? Where we added a number MQLs. You can add and you're going to get the same amount. Next to multiplicative portion, when we talk about conversion ratio. But where RevOps lives, and I'll show you this in a second, and we'll just see it, is where RevOps live is in the exponential, meaning every as I go further and further down the funnel, and as I get more and more, it has an exponential, meaning my margins get larger and larger, and there's a compounding effect. Our brains, scientifically proven, we can't think this way. This is the way 401ks work. It's the way our retirement plans work, right? And which is difficult for us to think about the compound interest that we can have if we start retirement early. It's just not the way our brains work. So part of our job of RevOps is understanding where the compound interest lies and where we're going to start focusing our time. This is the background of the model. Let's give an example here. And this will be, I'll consider this the end of class today, and then I'll go over the exercise and I'll field any questions. So an example, we have our sales process that sits between V3, V4, and V5. And there's a conversion ratio that's called opportunity to close. That's close win ratio. Remember, for business model, this is the 1 to 3, 1 to 5, 1 to 8. Inside this, there are a number of meetings. And so there's meeting A, meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4, and so forth, so on. And the average number of meetings can be anywhere from 12 for an enterprise business or larger. And if you can, and each one of these meetings has a conversion ratio. So it's not just a conversion ratio from V3 to V4. Each one of these meetings, when I have a discovery call, how well do I do that discovery call that I have my next meeting? When I do a demo, how well am I doing the demo, and so forth and so on. And we can look at those conversion ratios from meeting to meeting, and that has an exponential impact on growth. Exponential impact. But this is just us collecting for customers, right? In the sales portion here. Where do we have the most amount of impact? Where is compound interest occurs? It occurs anywhere where there is repeat customers. So example, I'm actually going to draw this out so we can see it. And then tomorrow we'll go over a little bit more math. So do it. So we draw here. So the sales function on this side is all what I just showed you. This is our exponential portion. And it still is, you go from left to right. Like, you only go through the sales motion one time in a customer's life. Once they become your customer, you're selling to them one time, net new logo. But that is not true for others. So inside the bottom of the funnel, and my screen keeps going down, in front of if you think about the right side of the funnel, this is where it occurs over and over again. So if we make a change to a conversion ratio where we're able to increase renewal And we say we have a monthly renewal, and we're able to make sure our churn ratio has increased on our renewal from LTV 7 to 8. It occurs over and over and over and over and over again. And that has a compound interest as they continue to upsell, as they continue to add seats, as they continue to eat our product, whatever it may be, and it has a much larger impact. And so this is where, when you hear people say, majority of impact is done at the right side and we should be focusing on our customers, that is why. Compound interest here, exponential on the left. And so when we think about where do we prioritize our time, we almost have this maniacal like focus on the left side, and we don't spend enough time on the right side thinking about this. We'll go a bit further in the math tomorrow. I'll show you some examples, but I'll end it here today. And my point as I go over this is RevOps is about setting up your like, once you have your data model, you have your go-to-market motion, it's putting the data model on, it's starting to measure. And then once you can measure, then you can start actually doing those best practices and starting to figure out where are my cliffs, where are my conversion fall offs, and that's where you focus. And it doesn't become I feel like this is happening. It becomes, I know this is happening. And here is a methodology I can impact, and I can measure whether what I'm doing is working or failing, and you can pivot. And so over time, as we thought about growth, you can get from the up, down, up, down, up, down into a place where you have a scalable operation that you know works. That's the beauty and the science of looking at revenue growth.